Welcome back to Grandpa's Time. Hey grandkids. This video is some pictures that I took when Grandma and I went to upstate New York and went and visited the Boxing Hall of Fame. Really interesting place with a lot of cool history. If you don't already know by now, grandkids, I'm a pretty big fan of boxing, and I became a fan because I boxed a little when I was in the military. I had about 20 fights, I guess. When I was younger, I was more into it, but I still enjoy watching a good fight. It doesn't seem like there's consistently the high caliber of groups of fighters that there used to be. I used to see a lot more. Well, I'll just give you some examples. In the 1970s, there were a great group of heavyweights. Muhammad Ali, of course, and you had Ernie Shavers, Joe Frazier, Ken Norton, George Foreman, Jerry Quarry, and then you had in the 80s, you had a really great group of Duran, Leonard, not heavyweights, but you had Duran, Leonard, Hagler, and Hearns, where the top four, it must have been middleweight. I know Sugar Ray Leonard fought a bunch of different weights, but and then you had guys like John the Beast Mugabe, and you had Floyd Mayweather's father, I guess it was Floyd Mayweather Sr., fought during that time. And you had some other good fighters in that group. So you had some just spectacular group of fighters that really brought the level of boxing up. And then you had, in the 90s, of course, the early 90s anyway, you had Tyson, and well, I guess late 80s, early 90s. I'm trying to think of the years. Maybe I'll post it on here because I can't remember exactly when he was getting really big, but you had a great group of heavyweights, or a really good group anyway of heavyweights then. You had Tyson, Evander Holyfield moved up in weight to heavyweight. Riddick Bowe, Lennox Lewis. You had some really good journeyman boxers. Well, maybe they were better than journeyman, but they weren't quite the top of the heap. Guys like Ray Mercer and Tommy Morrison, and Joe Hip was pretty good, and Burt Cooper, pretty good heavyweights. And I don't know, I get busy with life and stuff, and I don't keep up as much with boxing now. There's still some great boxers out there, but I'm trying to think of any one weight class where you've got a big group of guys that are bringing the entire level of boxing up. There's good rivalries. There's a good rivalry now and then, which ends up making a good trilogy. Like you had Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti. Those were fun fights to watch. And recently, you've had Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder fight a trilogy. It was pretty good. They're good heavyweights, but they're not like inspiring a group of heavyweights to become better, like it seemed like Ali did and Tyson did. And you can make these arguments about whether they were actually what made the heavyweights better at the time, but there's no denying that the heavyweights were better. And everyone knew who the heavyweight champion was. These guys had a certain aura around them, which, with those other four I was telling you about, the middleweights, you know, the Hearns, Hagler, Hearns, Leonard Duran, all those fights, boy, they were fun to watch. I just wanted to add one more thing to this video. I probably got some of the dates wrong, and I know with the weights, you know, with Duran and Leonard and Hearns and those guys, most of them started off at welterweight, and they, you know, as they got older, they moved up into the middleweight. I think Hagler was the only one that was a middleweight his whole career. I'm not perfect on this stuff, and I know somebody who's a big fan of boxing might nitpick some of what I said, and you know, I mean, Tyson, that thing I was talking about, Tyson making the heavyweights better, I do believe that. I think that he inspired a bunch of people to become better. I mean, he blasted through the heavyweight division in the late 80s, and he wasn't as good in the 90s. He wasn't as big a force, and he did some time in prison. And in the meanwhile, you still had a really good crop of heavyweights then. So, and you know, I want to give credit to, I was sitting there saying I couldn't really think of a group of fighters that were inspiring as a group. Now, there's great fighters. I mean, there's just some tremendous guys out there, and I don't want to take anything away from them. And I'm just talking about a whole group of guys in a division that were making boxing better. And I think you had that with Pacquiao as a flyweight, and when he was fighting Morales and Barrera and Marquez and those guys. I mean, man, you had some just incredible fights. And Pacquiao is an inspiring fighter all on his own. Moved up from flyweight. I think he went all the way up to welterweight. Won a bunch of different divisions. Anyway, again, thanks for watching. Hope you like the scenery here. It's a little spot in Kodiak right off the highway. You can probably hear the road noise, but it's a beautiful spot. Didn't mean to turn this into a big ramble or a big rant, but I thought I'd talk a little bit about boxing and just share some time with one of my passions with you grandkids, and show you some pictures here of the Boxing Hall of Fame in upstate New York. So thanks for watching. Hope you like this. There's not really any video, but it's mostly just pictures. So I'll put some music with it or something.